So, modern English grammar, what can students expect in this class?
Well, a lot of students, especially students who are on the teaching track, know that they are going to have to teach some basic grammar pretty soon, including things like finding the subject and the predicate and telling the difference between a direct object and an indirect object. And I find a lot of students are not confident that they know how to do that stuff. Some have had it in school but don't remember it very well. Some haven't had it in school at all. So one thing that this course is going to do is increase everybody's confidence in their familiarity and ability to teach these kinds of basic grammatical concepts, which are actually really useful. Once you learn how a language works, you really appreciate it much better, and you understand how it works a lot better. And that makes you, I think, better able to talk about some of the sort of higher level things that language does. You can sort of talk about it at that nuts and bolts level. So we're going to talk a lot about that. But we're also going to talk about grammar as a construct. Grammar in the sense of the correct way to speak English is really a pretty recent development in the history of the English language. A lot of the rules that we follow that you may or may not remember from middle school, like don't split infinitives, go back to Robert Louth in the 18th century, and the fact that you have to put periods and commas inside of quotation marks instead of outside of quotation marks go back to Noah Webster, who was, at best an amateur linguist, but a great salesman, and really great at selling the idea that American English was somehow different from British English and better than British English.
Yes.
So we're going to look at the historical background behind all of those really sort of, the sort of arbitrary rules that we follow in grammar at the same time as we learn the rules themselves. And then, as much as possible, we're going to talk about the linguistic foundations of English grammar. If you don't have a chance to take linguistics here, I think that's a fascinating subject to study. And even just at the phonological level, we speak it every day, we use words every day, but a lot of people, have never really heard themselves and never really heard the language that they're talking. So, for example, just one specific example, it's very hard to say the word length without putting a K in the middle. Why do we have to say that? Why does that make it easier to say? Why is it a K as opposed to any other sound? Why don't we spell that sound? Those are all really kind of interesting questions to dig into, and ultimately tell us a lot about the language that we speak but never really pay much attention to. So that's what we're going to be focusing on as well in grammar. So most people hear the word grammar and they think, oh, boring, but I can almost guarantee that everyone who takes this class will become a language geek and will be really will really appreciate the language that they speak much better at the end.